Lamplight pools on canvas white, your brush draws on from fading night. Kenneth, you trace the sky in blue with strokes that only truth breaks through. Each frame a whispered vow. Kenneth, our colors catch the light. Your vision shows us how. Palette holds the sunset's glow. We shape the scenes your voice will know. Kenneth, each line a silent song for listeners who feel they belong. Kenneth, the painting breathes tonight. Each frame a whispered vow. Our colors catch the light. Kenneth, our colors catch the light. Your vision shows us how. No clock can rush this quiet art. Just your name and shared hearts. Kenneth, the painting breathes tonight. Our colors catch the to sight.
This is Art with Kenneth. Hosted by artist Kenneth J. Lewis Sr. This channel takes viewers inside the studio, where paintings are built in real time and ideas take shape through process, patience, and intent. Each session reveals how structure, history, and emotion come together on the canvas. This is not a highlight reel. It's the work, unfolding.
Before refrigeration trucks and grocery store freezers, there was the Iceman. Long before convenience became ordinary, men traveled city streets carrying blocks of ice from door to door, supplying homes and businesses with one of the most valuable necessities of the time. It was hard labor. Physical labor. The kind of work that demanded endurance, balance, strength, and resilience through every season. In this episode of Art with Kenneth, artist Kenneth J. Lewis Sr. revisits that forgotten era through oil paint, gesture, and movement. Beginning with a loose sketch and a bold red acrylic wash beneath the surface, the painting slowly develops through layers of expressive oil brushwork. Even as the oils begin to dominate the canvas, traces of that original red underpainting continue pushing through the final image, adding warmth, tension, and energy beneath the cooler blues of the composition. The Iceman is not painted as a perfectly polished figure. He is painted as movement, as labor, as memory. The oversized blue coat, golden trousers, wet reflections on the ground, and dripping blocks of ice all work together to create a scene that feels alive rather than frozen in time. Loose brushstrokes remain intentionally visible throughout the painting, allowing the viewer to experience the energy of the artist's hand instead of hiding it beneath overblending or perfection. This approach gives the figure character, presence, humanity. The painting itself becomes less about realism and more about atmosphere, rhythm, and survival. Tonight, the forgotten worker returns to the streets once again. The history of the Iceman represents an entire era of American life that has nearly disappeared from public memory. Before electric refrigeration became common in homes during the early 20th century, families depended on daily or weekly ice deliveries to preserve food. Large blocks of ice were harvested from frozen lakes during winter months or later manufactured commercially and transported throughout growing cities. The Iceman became an essential figure in neighborhoods across America. He carried massive blocks of ice using hooks, leather straps, wagons, and raw physical strength. Deliveries often began before sunrise and continued throughout the day regardless of weather conditions. It was exhausting work that demanded toughness and discipline. In many communities, the Iceman became a familiar presence. Children recognized the sound of the wagon wheels approaching down the street. Families waited for fresh blocks of ice to refill their wooden ice boxes. Entire routines centered around his arrival. In this painting, the figure walks directly toward the viewer with confidence and motion. Rather than standing still like a posed portrait, he feels active and engaged within his environment. The body language suggests purpose. The raised arm holding the ice creates upward movement while the reflections below pull the viewer's eye back down into the street surface. The wet ground becomes an important part of the composition. Instead of simply painting pavement, the reflections are exaggerated with bold blues, reds, whites, and golds that echo the colors of the figure above. These reflections create visual rhythm across the lower half of the painting while also suggesting melting ice, water, movement, and long hours spent working outdoors. The loose brushwork plays a major role in the emotional feeling of the piece. Nothing is over-rendered. Edges shift. Colors vibrate. Brushstrokes remain visible. That decision keeps the painting alive. The blue coat is built with energetic strokes layered beside reds, whites, and darker passages instead of flat blended color. This creates movement throughout the figure and prevents the painting from feeling static. The golden brown tones of the clothing push warmth against the cool blues surrounding the composition. That temperature contrast becomes one of the strongest visual elements in the piece. Even the unfinished or rougher passages become important. They allow the viewer's eye to complete the image emotionally rather than mechanically. Underneath all of it remains the original red acrylic wash. That red continues revealing itself through certain areas of the oil paint, almost like the memory of struggle beneath the surface. It adds heat beneath the cool atmosphere of the scene and creates tension between the environment and the figure himself. The painting becomes less about documenting a worker and more about honoring the endurance of forgotten labor. The Iceman represents a generation of working people whose physical effort helped build everyday life for others. Today, refrigeration exists quietly in the background of modern convenience. Most people never stop to consider the labor that once made food preservation possible inside ordinary homes. But paintings like this allow those stories to return. Not through photographs. Not through textbooks. But through paint, gesture, color, and emotion, the Iceman walks again through memory. And through art, his presence remains alive. belong to another era, but the spirit behind the work still feels familiar today. Discipline. Responsibility. Labor. Survival. This painting captures more than a historical worker. It captures the dignity of everyday people whose stories often disappear with time. Through loose oil brushwork, visible underpainting, bold reflections, and expressive color, artist Kenneth J. Lewis Sr. transforms a forgotten occupation into something powerful and alive once again. Thank you for watching this episode of Art with Kenneth. If you enjoy original art, expressive painting techniques, art history, and the stories behind the work, make sure to like, subscribe, and share the channel. And remember, sometimes history is not preserved in museums alone. Sometimes it survives through paint. Thank you for joining Kenneth today on Art with Kenneth. Your support truly means the world to him. Every view, every comment, every share helps keep independent art alive and growing. Through each episode, Kenneth J. Lewis Sr. brings you into the studio, into the process, and into the mindset of a working artist who lives and breathes creativity every single day. If today's episode inspired you, taught you something new, or simply gave you a moment of peace, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps expand the reach of the channel and builds a stronger creative community around the work. He looks forward to creating with you again soon. And remember, every masterpiece begins with a single brushstroke. See you next time.